Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing very well today. So today's video is going to be all about makeup tips that changed my makeup life. So I got this video idea from Sarah Rose. She is a YouTuber that I thoroughly love and enjoy. I love all of her videos. I love the content that she creates. And I got this video idea from her. I really liked the video that she posted. I really liked the tips, and it kind of inspired me to kind of maybe think about some tips that I want to share with you guys. Maybe these are tips that I've been doing for, or not tips, but maybe these are steps that I've been doing for a while that have really made a difference in my makeup routine, or maybe they're just newer things that I started doing that I don't want to gatekeep and I want to share with you. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we begin though, I do want to let you know that I did film this makeup look. I filmed a Shop Miss A haul and get ready with me style video. I'm pretty sure that one is going to go up first. If not, this one you'll probably see, and then that one. Stay tuned either way, but let's go ahead and get started. So these are obviously tips that work for me. They may not work for you, but these are makeup tips that I am just really happy that I decided to go ahead and incorporate into my makeup routine. And this is just some tips, some advice, some I don't know, suggestions that I want to offer to you, and also hopefully they can help your makeup routine in any way and so forth. So firstly, something that I think is really important is letting your skincare sink in. That's tip number one. I started doing this whenever I started incorporating SPF into my skincare routine. I know I wasn't always using SPF, but now I religiously apply it every single day. More so when I do my makeup, and I do my makeup most days, so that helps. But there are some days that I skip it if I'm gonna be like staying at home all day, or if I'm not really gonna be doing much. But I try for the most part to apply sunscreen every day. But what I mean by letting your skincare sink in is basically, like, let me give you an example. So I wash my face in the morning, and then I use a hydrating essence. So it's like a toner, but it's hydrating, and it works more so as something to kind of further hydrate my skin than something that's going to like tighten my pores or something like that. So I go in with my cleanser, my essence, and then my moisturizer, and then my SPF. So that is my whole morning routine. What I like to do after that is, let's say it's in the morning, I'm getting ready for work. I do all of those skincare steps in the morning, and then I go and I make my breakfast, or I feed my dogs, or I take my dogs outside, or I change my cat's litter. I do all of those things, and that takes about 10 minutes or so, maybe less, depending on what I'm having to do that morning. And then I go in with my makeup, because I like to let my skincare sink in. I feel like 10 minutes is usually enough for me to kind of go in with a primer and then go in with my foundation. I am still a primer person. I know some people, they don't use primers because they feel that their skincare as well as their SPF can kind of be that for them. And there are definitely days that I skip primer, but I truly still believe that primers work well for me, especially, primers that blur pores or smooth the skin. There's also some primers that are hydrating, because sometimes, especially when the weather gets colder, I do benefit from that extra hydration. And so yes, I highly recommend letting your skincare sink in. So I know that's kind of hard, especially if you're in a hurry during the mornings. That's definitely, I'm in the same boat. I don't have kids or anything, so that definitely helps with, allowing myself to kind of get things done faster in the morning. But if you have the time, if you can spare 10 minutes or so to let your skincare sink in, I promise you, makeup will go on so beautifully on top of your skin. And on top of that, you're not going to have like pilling or any products balling up on each other, because you're allowing your skin to kind of absorb all of that skincare, if that makes sense. So that is tip number one. My second tip is mixing matte and dewy products. So this is something that I kind of got from Juicy Jazz a while back. I've been doing this for a while now, but this is something that has really changed my makeup life. Like, I started watching Juicy Jazz, I believe whenever I was in college. I want to say it was before I met my husband, and that was 6 years ago. So I've been watching her for a really long time at this point. And she, I feel like, was the queen of mixing and matching like different finishes and dewy primers with matte foundations and matte primers with dewy foundations. I mean, I feel like she was really the queen about doing that. Of course, there's probably tons of other people that were doing it either before her or around the same time that she was doing that, but that's where I got exposed to that. And let me tell you, it has completely changed the game for me. And so what I mean by this is I am someone who has, like, especially right now because it's summer, it's hot, I have combination oily skin. So right now my skin can be pretty normal around like my cheeks, and in my T-zone it gets pretty oily. Like right now my nose, like I touched it, I have some oil, right? This, of course, this makeup has been on for maybe like an hour or two. So anyways, what I like to do is I like to go in, if I'm going to use a matte foundation that day, I like to go in with a dewy primer or a hydrating primer. If I'm going in with a dewy foundation that day, I like to go in with a mattifying primer, or more so like a pore blurring primer, because I don't use a lot of matte primers. I've noticed a lot of my primers are either pore filling or skin smoothing or hydrating or glowy, right? So those are kind of the primers that I stick with, but mixing and matching has really allowed me to use anything that I want. Like, to be honest with you, no matter your skin type, you can almost use anything, as long as you are, of course, hydrating your skin properly, or preparing your skin rather with your skincare, because no matter what, if you have oily skin, you need hydration. It doesn't matter if you get oily throughout the day. If you actually continue to just use mattifying products all the time, it's probably going to have the adverse effect, and you're probably going to get more oily throughout the day. There were times that I was just constantly using mattifying products. I used like a mattifying, like an oil control cleanser, an oil control moisturizer, an oil control. I mean, literally I was using everything that was oil control, and I feel like my makeup was slipping and sliding more so than it ever was. And I'm telling you, it's because you need to hydrate your skin. Your skin always needs hydration. Honestly, moisturized skin is the key to anti-aging, that and sunscreen, of course, right? So the moment I started making sure that my skin was very, very well prepped with hydrating skincare products, and then going in with good primers, I was able to really make anything work for me. So I'm someone who does like a dewy base. However, I do like to make sure that I'm powdered, that my skin is set for the day. And I'm able to do that because I have hydrating, bases underneath. Then I go in with my more mattifying products, like maybe it's my powder that's mattifying, maybe it's my setting spray that's mattifying, but I really am kind of manipulating both, and that is such a game changer for me, honestly. And that even works for cream products too. There's a lot of people that have oily skin that are afraid of cream products, and that's totally fine. It's a very natural feeling, because if you think oily skin and you think cream products, you don't think that they really go together, because you're thinking, my skin already is so oily, it already slips and slides all over the place. Why would I even want to incorporate cream and liquid products? Like, if that's, like, my problem is staying, matte throughout the day. If you manipulate, right, if you use cream products and then you go in with like a mattifying powder, or if you're using a matte foundation, like, you can definitely still enjoy beautiful cream products. So just keep that in mind if you're looking for ways to incorporate either, more dewy products or more glowy products, or maybe you feel because you're dry, you can't use anything that's matte, or maybe powders tend to always look bad on you because you have dry skin. Try manipulating products by including you know, hydrating primers, hydrating moisturizers, hydrating foundations, or the other way around, where you're using maybe a mattifying primer with a dewy foundation, etc. So that is my tip, my advice number 2. Then I have setting spray in between. So this has been something that I really have been enjoying doing, especially recently. So I've noticed whenever I get to the point where all of my base makeup is on, so if I've already done like my primer, foundation, concealer, my bronzer, blush, highlight, and then of course my powder, I like to go in with a setting spray in between, because that's usually right before I'm gonna get into doing my brows and doing my eyeshadow, of course, before I apply mascara. And so I like to go in with a setting spray in between, because what I like to do is apply all of my face makeup, and I'm someone who does my face makeup before eyeshadow. I know some people do eyeshadow first. I don't like to do that. And so I'll apply all of my face makeup, then I'll use a setting spray. And by the time I'm done with all of my eye makeup, I can see where I need to touch up. So if I go in with a glowy setting spray, and then by the time I finish up my eyes, I may see, you know what, my T-zone's looking a little bit oily. Maybe that setting spray was too dewy for me. I can go in with like my NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop pressed powder and like apply that in my T-zone, and then I'm good to go. I really like that. And again, if you're someone who has, you know, like you don't like having that powdery finish, or maybe you have dry skin and the moment you apply powder, you just look like everything is like super dry on your face, then try setting your makeup in between and seeing if by the time you finish up your eye makeup, your foundation, like your complexion looks any better. So yeah, I've been really enjoying that, because it kind of gives me a glimpse of what my makeup's going to look like before I'm headed out the door, before I'm in public. Because sometimes you need to make those changes before you're out into the world and, you know, seeing everybody. Okay, then I have not setting my under eye so heavily. So this has been a recent thing, and I've noticed, especially with age, the wonderful gift of age, that my under eyes have been increasingly dry, and they have gotten so many fine lines underneath them. And so concealer doesn't sit very well underneath there anymore, and setting powder can very, very easily mess things up for me. And so what I've tried doing now is very, very, very lightly setting my under eyes. And honestly, if I didn't have to set my under eyes, I wouldn't, because I just like my under eyes looking hydrated than not, and looking dry and like looking like they're fossils underneath there. But I've noticed the times that I don't set my under eyes, my mascara bleeds or like runs or smears. Like I'll get like my mascara down here. And so now I just set my under eye very, very lightly, and I try to use a brush like the Real Techniques setting brush, for instance, because it's very, very like fine, and it's not super thick, it's not super dense, so I'm able to just grab some powder real quick, and then I literally just like run it underneath my eyes very, very lightly. And that really helps with not making my under eyes look as bad. It's not a miracle worker. I still have my fine lines. You guys know how much I am on the struggle bus with this, but I'm telling you, if you do not set your under eyes with a ton of powder, like if you have the same problem with me, right, as me, try not setting your under eyes so heavily. I was going in with like tons of powder because I thought that that was actually going to help, and honestly I feel like the powder makes it worse. So I try to go in with something that's very finely milled, something that's going to blur, but also I just try to go in with a very light hand because I don't want my under eyes looking any worse. So just a tip, that's something that has definitely kind of helped with prolonging my under eye makeup, like as far as like my concealer wearing a little bit better throughout the day, and so forth. All right, and then the final product, or the final tip. So these are 5 tips that I have for you today. The final tip is going to be working in layers. So working in layers is key. It is absolutely key. So I am someone who my skin can get very finicky very quickly. I am someone that if I put on too much makeup or if I put on too much of a heavy layer, you are going to see it on my skin. So what I like to do is work in layers. So something that I like to do is I like to always pump foundation on the back of my hand first. I hardly ever apply it to my face first before I blend it out. I always try to pump it on the back of my hand because I'd rather add than have to worry about taking away. So I always use a makeup sponge. That just works better for me. If you use a brush, that's fine. But I always recommend working in layers because you want your foundation especially, but this goes for like cream products, this goes for eyeshadow, like things like that. Let's use foundation for example. So I like to just kind of lay down an even layer of foundation all over my face. Then once I see that I need more coverage in certain areas, then I either go in with a little bit more foundation on those places or I just spot conceal afterwards. But working in layers allows you to not have too much makeup on, one, and two, it allows you to make sure that you're not just caking up product. So I watched, was it Wayne Goss? I think it was Wayne Goss. I watched one of his videos on applying foundation and he made a really great point and I thought that it was very helpful. He said that your foundation should be dry. It shouldn't be wet when you're applying it. Like meaning like when you're working in layers, you shouldn't have like these wet layers of foundation. Like your foundation should pretty much be absorbed into your skin by the time you're working in another layer if you choose to do so. And I feel like that really helped because it helped me kind of picture, okay, and obviously I'm not saying like it looks dry like you powdered it. No, it's just like you shouldn't see like your skin sopping wet in just foundation, like liquid foundation. He was talking about how you work in a layer and then by the time you blend out that first layer, it should, you know, somewhat look like it's pretty much drying on your face, right? Then you go in with another light layer and you're not just layering these wet layers of liquid foundation. Do you know what I mean? I recommend watching that video. I really do. I feel like he's going to explain it far better than I am, of course, but that working in layers really does help me a lot, especially with cream and liquid products. I cannot recommend this tip enough with working in layers with cream and liquid products because you can always add more, but it's very difficult to take away. And so if you're working with cream and liquid products, I recommend always making sure that you are, like when you put in your brush in the cream product, try to dab off a little bit of the excess product on the back of your hand first and then go in with your brush with that cream product and blend it in. Then dip your brush back in if you need more product, but if you don't need more product, then I'm glad you took off some of that excess before. So working in layers is going to be key. Working with liquid products, squeeze on the back of your hand just like foundation. Squeeze on the back of your hand, get your brush, dab it in, tap off the excess on a separate piece of your hand, and then go in, right? Because again, you can always add more, but you're gonna have to start over if you have to take away. Or it'll just be that much harder to blend it out if you're working with so much color at one time. So these are all of my makeup tips. I really hope that you're able to try them out on your own. Let me know if you do any of these makeup tips. I would love to hear from you guys. If you have any makeup tips that you would like to share with me, please let me know those in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys. And if you enjoyed this video, it was a little bit different, I know, but if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Also, I would love for you to subscribe and be a part of my YouTube channel family here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will go ahead and see you in my next video. Bye.
Maybe one day it'll be easy, sweet like cotton candy.